Chicken jockey. Two words that, earlier this year, sent shivers down the spines of theater employees, as a viral phenomenon resulted in near riot-level pandemonium in theater auditoriums around the world. It was April of 2025 which saw the release of a Minecraft movie, the big-screen adaptation of the mega-popular multi-platform sandbox video game. The movie was expected by most box office prognosticators to be successful, but the gigantic level of success was seen as a surprise to many, as the film ultimately grossed close to $1 billion worldwide. But even more newsworthy than the movie's financial win was the rapturous, and some would say chaotic, audience response it engendered at its screenings. During a sequence of the film featuring the aforementioned chicken jockey, a rare occurrence in the games in which a baby zombie rides a chicken, audience members excitedly yelled along to the declaration and cheered the resulting action.
Chicken jockey! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
This was nothing new or unexpected necessarily, as mainstream blockbusters have often clearly been aiming for these types of audience cheer moments in this modern age of IP-driven filmmaking. But things took a unique turn when several online social media accounts posted in-theater recordings of their own enthusiastic, and sometimes even exaggerated over-enthusiastic, responses to the moment.
Chicken jockey! Yes!
Soon, a sort of game of one-upsmanship took hold, as both fans and people who simply wanted to jump on the bandwagon began filming their own theater's responses to the scene, with an escalation of over-the-top reactions. Cheering loudly turned into throwing popcorn, which turned into throwing popcorn and drinks, which turned into standing up and running around the aisles in faux hysterics, which turned into rave-like glow stick waving, and which ultimately led to one of the more infamous viral chicken jockey videos, which showed a theater patron on the shoulders of another, excitedly and proudly holding up the live chicken they had brought into the screening. The in-theater mayhem quickly became a news story, and an expected element of the film's screenings, with many theaters left looking particularly trashed after the movie's completion, popcorn and soda cups littering the floors and seats to a much greater degree than would typically be considered the norm. A debate soon began to rage among movie fans, even including between the two hosts of this podcast, about whether this was more annoying evidence of the decline of theater etiquette, or an exciting and silly Rocky Horror-like instance of genuine fan excitement and participation that should have been welcomed and even cultivated by an otherwise struggling theater industry. It seemed even theaters and the movie industry didn't know where to land in the debate. Stars of the film were recruited to record pre-movie intros asking audiences not to disturb their fellow moviegoers, but many theaters did schedule labeled rowdy screenings, allowing fans to go full chicken jockey mad guilt-free. It's probably too early to tell whether the Minecraft movie chicken jockey phenomenon was really the start of, or some would argue the latest but most troubling continuation of, a potential escalating devolution of the theater-going experience, or simply an amusing, newsworthy, one-time aberration only relevant to this one film. So far, no subsequent 2025 blockbusters have led to similar viral in-theater chaos, though a Minecraft movie sequel is in the early stages of development, perhaps again striking fear in the theater employees who remember the extra level of cleanup that followed the original screenings. One thing is clear though, whether you were amused or disgusted by the chicken jockey theater videos, there's no doubt the craze at least partly aided the film's significant success, though perhaps not as much as an arguably less discussed element, the fact that the film's star, the very man who utters the phrase chicken jockey in the movie, has over the last decade plus been quietly but surely building a reputation as one of the most popular and successful family film movie stars in the business. Though that's not to say that every family film he has made has been phenomenon level enough to spawn a franchise. The year is 2018, and Universal Pictures and Amblin Entertainment are ready to release a new cinematic adaptation of a popular kids' book from an unlikely director, and in the process hopefully launch the next big family fantasy comedy franchise with The House with a Clock in Its Walls.
0.
Welcome once again to Failure to Franchise, the show dedicated to some of Hollywood's most infamous mistakes, missteps, and misfires. This is Trev.
Hickory dickory dock. The house is fit with the clock. The clock struck 8. Hey, is that Blanchett named Cate? Hickory dickory dock. Oh!
I know Andrew Dice Clay is one of your favorite comedians, just like all-around entertainers, so I wondered how long it would take till you were able to work it into the show. And here we are.
It took
episodes, but you finally got there.
Yeah, it took 5 years.
Yes. Well, I'm glad. I'm happy. I'm always happy to see a friend like finally live a dream, you know?
Yeah, thanks.
And here we are for the 4th episode of Summer Surprise, or as I'm going to call it now, it's not even Summer Surprise anymore. It's Small Town Witch Summer, baby. I Spy really missed out,
crazy.
Not including a subplot about a witch in a small town.
Yeah,
we could have. Yeah.
It's kind of wild that has occurred.
That never clicked with us like while we were like when we did the initial draw, but as we've been watching them, it's been certainly like on this one I was like, again with the small town witches, come on,
insane.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And also the good news for our listeners is yes, don't worry. Chris and I have made up. We have survived. I know things got a little testy in the last episode, but we went into podcast like co-host like counseling. You know, we came out of it okay. The good news is since that episode, I saw that you gave like a good review to Happy Gilmore 2, so I was reminded that yes, you just are in the bag for like any comedy. And you saw that I watched the movie War of the Worlds starring Ice Cube, so you realized that I'm just an idiot. So it's like we both kind of, we both were able to just kind of say, oh, okay, it doesn't matter what the other thought about I Spy.
If nothing else, we balance each other's tastes out, I think. That's yeah.
But yeah, so as we said, for those who don't know, if maybe there are huge, House of the Clock and Its Walls super fans, so this is their first episode. So just to once again briefly explain, Summer Surprise is the summer event, our annual summer event, where we let an online randomizer pick our movies for us from a long list. And I don't know, this one kind of falls into like that YA world that we try to like avoid ourselves, but always get stuck with. A little bit, a little different. We'll talk about it, but this is House of the Clock and Its Walls from 2018. Chris, why don't you tell us even a little bit more about it?
Sure. It is directed by famed family filmmaker. Oh wait, no. No. Instead, this is directed by Eli Roth. More famous for gory goo fests, I would say. Cabin Fever, Hostel, Part 1 and 2, The Green Inferno, the cannibal movie. This is
recently.
Yes, Thanksgiving recently. Yeah. This is based on the 1973 novel by John Bellairs. It is the first of 12 books, actually, who later on Brad Strickland took over for that series after Bellairs died. The film is written by Eric Kripke. A lot of nerds know that name very, very well. He is a writer and TV producer, created Supernatural, that TV show that I think is still going.
It's like 87th season, I believe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And he also helped develop The Boys, which is running on Amazon Prime right now. Yes. The budget of the film is $42 million. Domestically, it made $68 million. And worldwide, it was a moderate hit, making $131 million. And the best opening weekend of Eli Roth's career. So,
yeah. Legit hit. And we said the only other thing I want to throw in now, just to say it, because I'm sure it's something we'll talk about, but we should also talk about how one of the producers on this film, Steven Spielberg, because this is an Amblin movie.
Yes.
So kind of exciting to see, a modern Amblin film. I'm sure Amblin is something. I mean, it definitely means something to me. We can talk about what it means to you.
For sure.
But I think it's worth mentioning because it kind of frames a lot of the discussion about this movie and about what it was aiming for, and also the oddness of the filmmaker. To helmet when you consider it as an Amblin movie. But so I just want to throw that in there too.
For sure. I guess where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start talking about Eli Roth a little bit first, or the book?
Well, let's just actually quickly
or...
let's get this out of the way because I know you're going to ask it, and
Sure.
since my answer is very very short this time, because typically you'll be like, you're the reader, Trev. What do you know about the book series or anything? Really nothing. Honestly, I had never heard of this book until this movie came along.
Oh wow.
And that was kind of surprising to me because once given like the subject matter, which we'll discuss in a little bit, and like the overall tone of it, and then finding out it had like illustrations by Edward Gorey and everything, like it seems like something that would have been way up my alley. Like when I was a kid, I loved reading the kind of spooky books, like scary stories to tell in the dark, and the kind of like the Goosebumps type stuff. Actually, Goosebumps was not so much when I was a little kid, but still stuff like that.
Sure.
And so it was actually shocking to me to discover that this was not just a very like a popular kids book, but that there was 12 of them. Like that just somehow completely, and like that series, as you said, eventually Brad Strickland takes it over, but it went up to like 2008.
Yeah.
And I just had like no knowledge of this. What about? I mean, like I'm guessing if that's the case with me, I'm guessing it's probably the same with you. Had you ever heard of this, or did you read it when you were younger?
No. But I was a Goosebumps kid for sure. Like I was a '90s kid, right? So Goosebumps, I think I read every single one of those. So. Oddly enough, this is kind of up my alley too, but just one of those, there's a lot of books. There's a lot of books out there.
And funny because there's like, I don't want to call it a Goosebumps connection, but it's worth noting that the lead actor in this is also the lead actor in the Goosebumps movies, which the second one came out the same year as this. So something to just kind of keep in mind.
And the little kid looks like the kid that's in those movies as well. Jack's son.
I thought you were going to say the little kid looks like Slappy, the dummy.
Oh, no.
It's like,
No,
Jack's... We don't like making fun of actors, and we don't like making fun of kids, but...
We don't. No, we don't. But Jack's son from Lost. That's how I always just talk about him. That's an ongoing joke between one of my really good friends, is that we just talk about Jack's son. We know right away.
Yeah, okay.
And you know what's weird? Goosebumps 2, by the way, came out this exact same year. Isn't that weird? I just saw that.
I just said that, but yeah.
You said Goosebumps 2 came out this year?
Yeah, I did, but that's okay.
Of 2018?
You don't listen to me when I'm talking. That's okay. Yeah.
You know what? You talk so much.
Yeah, I know. You just kind of turn off.
You should see half the recordings. I'm usually just scrolling. Anyway, that's so funny.
I never actually saw Goosebumps 2 though, and I believe his role is like greatly reduced in it to like maybe even just a cameo.
It is because he's uncredited in the credits. He's very it's very much of a cameo. The first one I remember liking. I cannot remember a single frame.
It. Yeah. I remember being very disappointed in it actually, because like I do like the Goosebumps. Like they kind of started at a time when I was probably too old to be taking them somewhat seriously.
Sure.
But as you know, I'm just a fan, and again, this will come up for reasons, but I am just kind of a fan of like gateway horror and like kids horror and like kind of the sillier, more innocent side of horror. Mm-hmm. So I've always liked the Goosebumps books, even as an adult. I think they're still fun to sit down and read. Plus, you can read one in like 20 minutes. But
yeah, totally.
But yeah, so I was actually pretty excited for that movie because I liked even the Goosebumps show back in the day.
Oh yeah, classic.
And
classic.
I just thought the movie was like I didn't really love the approach of it. I thought like an anthology movie would have been better than the whole thing of like all the books are coming to life, and yeah, I didn't.
Hey, well, you know what though, it was, interesting. I mean, maybe not an interesting way, but at least Goosebumps, the first movie, would you agree that it wasn't holding a ton back like a lot of these franchises do? Do you know what I mean? Like for them to be like, okay, let's do as many books as possible, except for the Haunted Mask. Do you think that was okay though? Like, would you give it kind of props for doing that?
I suppose. I mean, it kind of had had the feel of we might never get to make another one of these.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they did, and like I don't know if maybe that because I remember hearing even worse things about the second one, and maybe that was kind of the issue, right? Where they're I don't know, we did everything,
The second one was worse. I do know that, and also not to make this a Goosebumps podcast, but I think it is relevant. I watched both seasons of the Goosebumps straight to Disney Plus series that just recently happened. I don't know why.
Is that the one that like oddly had like David Schwimmer in it or something?
It did.
Yeah.
And I watched it all in a day, and it was quite poor. And it was one of those watches where I was like desperately waiting for it to come together, like in a way that made it worth it. You know, like one of those, like, I don't usually do this, and I've never even mentioned this to you that I watched it, because I knew you had no interest, but I checked it out, and I don't know why I kept watching it. It was just one of those things to be on during the day, and I'm like, you know what? Let's keep pushing through, and if they make another season, I will not be watching it. It was disappointing. Did
they bring back the theme song with the dog?
They did not at all.
See, but right there off the bat, like, why bother? You know?
I agree. I don't understand a lot of the decision making for that series because, like you said, the old show was so iconic, and like, just do that. I mean, I hate to say it like this, but just like do that again. Like, I don't know. Sometimes things like that do work.
It's tricky though, because like I didn't watch that show, and I don't know if you know I watched this at all. But what I will say is I didn't see the new Goosebumps, but I will kind of give some credit to, in recent years, Nickelodeon actually brought back Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh, okay.
But they brought it back as like these like event series. I think there was 3 of them. I only watched the first one. I haven't watched 2 and 3, but I really liked the first one, where it kind of was more like the full season told a story.
Right.
But like, I remember like the first season, like the horror community in general was like, wow, this is actually really good for like kids horror. And I think the second and third seasons both kind of had the same kind of similar, like really positive reception. I never got around to those.
Okay.
So it's like, you can bring this stuff back. And I think, again, this is relevant because it's important to our world discussion. I think there's always a place for this. And I think it gets forgotten that kids like being scared. And I think the reason I still like gateway horror as like a guy in my 40s is just like, as a horror fan, yes, I like the really extreme stuff. Yes, I like gore. Yes, I like really intense psychological horror and stuff. But there is just something about the fun side of like Halloween and spookiness. And like, when you're a kid, especially, it's when you're kind of like the most susceptible to all that stuff. So there's something really fun about always putting yourself back into like the eyes and the perspective of a young protagonist, and kind of remembering what it was like to have those fears as a kid when you're in a relationship with death and like everything was just so much different. Sure. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer that like to hear like that Goosebumps show didn't work, because it feels like there's no reason a Goosebumps show shouldn't be on the air like every year. You know, that's how
totally
I feel.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, the books are still popular. You know, R.L. Stein is still cranking them out. So, I mean, it's like, why not be able to figure it out? But,
I did not realize that he's still writing them.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, if I assume he's still writing them. He's one of those guys who he's like so prolific. You know, he's like one of the most prolific authors ever, and you just like take him at his word that he's actually writing them all. But then again, I said like they're so short. Maybe he does like write them all, and like he writes one a day or something. Whatever. But yeah, there's like, I don't know if you said you read them all. I don't know if you kept going to where they're turned into like kind of spin-off series like Slappy's World and like, you know.
No, I didn't. I didn't go into a lot of those spin-offs. The only kind of spin-offs I did was the Choose Your Own Adventures, stuff like that, right? Those are the only ones I used to.
So I think there's like still like Goosebumps like spin-off things going and things like that.
Okay. I like that you mentioned, this is kind of I guess a segue to come back around to this movie proper, but just gateway horror in general. And I do think you are, you know, as all things horror, I think I always I look up to you in that sense. I think you know what you're talking about. So they don't really make, how do I say this? I guess you said it earlier that you know, kids like to be scared, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that is lost on a lot of the general audience, especially nowadays. A lot of kids' films are maybe a little too safe. You know, it's PG scary movies are a bit of a lost art form. And I think that's where like Amblin comes into play, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you asked my relationship with Amblin, and I think it's just very similar to yours because I think most of it is just so iconic. But early Amblin films, you know, Gremlins, Goonies, for lack of a better, I'm not a huge Goonies fan, but I understand it. You know what I mean? Like, I get
That's
it.
That's how I feel. Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah. But like E.T., that kind of kids family film with an edge to it is, I mean, they have all stood the test of time and have become so iconic and so classic that they are the movies that people, I think, still strive to be like. You know what I mean? And it's hard nowadays to get that type of film going without being referential to those ones. And I think that's what was so interesting about Eli Roth and Spielberg kind of coming together to make this. Like Spielberg didn't really, I mean, I from what I'm learning from the research is they had the script, and he kind of thought of Eli Roth immediately to be, and kind of pitched it to him, which is interesting.
It's like, so I mean, I know we'll talk more about Eli Roth in a second, but I will say it seems odd at first when you first hear it, right? Like, wow, they like Spielberg handpicked Eli Roth to direct this like kids Amblin movie.
Yeah.
Until you remember that, let's not forget, Steven Spielberg started his career directing, stuff like in like Night Gallery, and he dabbled in horror obviously early on with like Duel and Jaws. I don't care what anyone says, Jaws is definitely a horror movie, and then even on the Amblin front, don't forget that the second Amblin movie is Poltergeist, where Steven Spielberg picked Tobe Hooper to direct that, and then maybe just directed it himself. That's a whole discussion, but still, he recognized Tobe Hooper's talents because of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Spielberg, even though he's never gone into like hardcore horror himself, although he's come close here and there, but he's definitely a horror fan.
Oh, sure.
And so like the same, like, to me, like him picking Eli Roth for this is kind of the same principle as him picking Tobe Hooper to helm Poltergeist, because Poltergeist also, I'd say, is obviously a more intense horror film than House with a Clock in its Walls, but it's also still, it's not Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? Poltergeist still exists in that realm of like PG-13ish, where kids can watch it and be scared, but not too, it's not too intense. So.
And some of our greatest filmmakers ever, like you said, Spielberg, but others came from the horror genre themselves, right? Like the Sam Raimis, Peter Jackson, James Cameron, these are heavy hitters. So when you think about it for a little longer, you do realize that Eli Roth was, we'll get into if he was the right guy, but I understand like the reasonings to why they would approach this guy in particular,
Yeah, it's almost gotten to the point where, I think of like the Ari Aster of it all, where he did like Hereditary and Midsommar, and then went on to do like Beau is Afraid and now Eggington. And I just actually saw a recent interview with him where he said he's got like multiple projects he's like working on, and one of them is like a return to horror. Right. But in general, I think the horror community was kind of hoping he would just stay a horror guy, and he did, and that seems like kind of boring to him. Sure. And I think in general, like in recent years, it's kind of always been when someone like breaks out with like a horror movie, or maybe they're their first one or their first two are horror. There's always that part of you as a big horror fan where you're like, well, but when are they going to leave the genre behind? Like when are they going to move into something else? And Eli Roth has done that a couple times actually, which we can also talk about. But I think it was just. Well, I guess, to me, him doing Death Wish, the Death Wish remake with Bruce Willis, that's almost like weirder than him doing this, because this still has like horror elements, I agree. Yep. So yeah, or even like after this going on to do like Borderlands, or at least start it, but I think I think it's just weird to think of Eli Roth ever leaving horror, because, and this can kick off our Eli Roth discussion. Yeah. He's one of the few still today, like, it's weird to call him a mainstream horror director, because I don't know that any of his horror movies are necessarily like huge mainstream hits. Right. But he made himself, he's like one of the few household name horror directors. Like everybody knows the name Eli Roth, and that's because he was just so smart, like kind of branding himself and self-promoting. He was very much like the Kevin Smith of horror early on, where he really put himself out there. And if you were watching a horror documentary, he was in it for sure. If you like any kind of like featurette on horror, he was in it. He just attached his name to like a lot of things. And so when he burst onto the scene, I think right away, just kind of the world understood Eli Roth. That's the horror guy, right?
He's really good at branding, because he was like, he's the torture porn guy. Like when Cabin Fever and Hostel 2 come out, he's the torture porn guy more than even like Saw is a franchise, obviously, and we've talked about it before on this podcast, and it's my favorite horror franchise. And I guess that franchise has been tossed around by different directors for so long that it's just kind of like the franchise people talk about. But when I tell normies that Eli Roth made Hostel, most people know right away, oh, okay, I totally understand what that guy's about.
Yeah. Or like I said, when Thanksgiving came out a couple years ago, it wasn't just, oh, hey, there's a new slasher movie finally coming out. It was like, oh my God, Eli Roth is making a slasher film, right? Eli Roth is coming back to horror. Like that's like, and that was actually like the buzz around that film. So that's just kind of indicative of how his name still means something, even though he's like a very divisive figure even within the horror community. And he always has been since the beginning. There's never been a time where he's been just universally beloved by horror fans. I'll talk in a bit about my overall thoughts on him, but I certainly have friends who are like, I have more friends who kind of hate Eli Roth actually than who like love him, you know. So
Yeah.
I know he's a divisive figure, but in that divisiveness, he's still always kept himself relevant, at least in that one scene.
Eli Roth is. I know I have conflicted feelings with him.
Yeah.
Right. Like
That's what I would say for myself too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I absolutely love Cabin Fever. Right.
Me
like
too,
that's a movie I think I've seen 20 times. You know, I own it. I just absolutely love it. But then, you know, Hostel. I wasn't a big Hostel guy. I did not want to watch The Green Inferno. You know, Knock Knock kind of sucked. Death Wish was fine. But then Thanksgiving, I was like, man, this rocks. So he's strange because I think I like listening to him talk about movies more than I like watching his movies.
That's kind of where I've always fallen to. Now like you, I really liked Cabin Fever. I do like the Hostel movies, especially Hostel 2, actually. I like that one more than the first one.
I think I saw it when I saw 2, I saw that in theaters. Yeah. And I think I saw it. Again, I'm a touch younger than yourself, but I saw it at an age where I don't think I got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 2 was like kind of a surprise bomb. You know, I remember like after the first one was a huge hit, and it like almost like it basically ended the franchise as a theatrical. I know there was a third straight to DVD that he didn't do.
Sure.
But I remember there was like a lot of talk about what happened with Hostel 2, and he like kind of blamed like there was a pirated copy that went out first. But I just also think the torture porn thing was coming to an end. But I think Hostel 2 is actually one I wish more people would revisit because it's like a little bit smarter than the first one.
Right.
And like it's got a kind of a mid-movie twist that I think is actually very clever. But whatever. We're not here to litigate Hostel. Just
Sure.
to say, I actually like those first 3 Eli Roth movies. Green Inferno, yeah, not so much. I found that pretty disappointing because I think you know this about me. You know I'm a sick person who actually does find some like depraved entertainment value out of the Italian cannibal genre that he was so clearly like wanting to pay tribute to. But I don't know why he had to put all it's really the bad humor stuff in Green Inferno. That it's not even like the gross cannibal stuff. It's the fact that he has like the diarrhea scene in it and everything. It's just like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you having like a fart montage for jokes here? Like, it was like a very, very weird movie that didn't quite land for me. But no, same with you. Where my go-to statement on Eli Roth has always been, well, not so much anymore, and we'll get into that too. But
yeah, hold on.
Yeah, for a long time, I always would say to people like, yeah, I don't know if Eli Roth is a great filmmaker, but I bet you I would be really good friends with him, right? Or I bet you he's definitely a person I could just sit down and talk horror with, because I like you, I like listening to him talk about other horror films that he didn't make more than I necessarily like watching the ones he made, because he's very, very like knowledgeable about the genre, and in particular the same kind of seedy, like, you know, exploitation slasher side of the genre that I'm really into. I mean, he's like he spends every waking moment he can propping up the movie Pieces, which is like one of my favorites too. And so it's like I can't like not like the guy in that regard, but there's other elements of himself where he's made himself kind of unlikable. So
he's like he came up with Quentin Tarantino, right?
Yeah.
And they are very, very good friends. In a lot of ways, I think I don't like making fun of actors and filmmakers, but sometimes I think he's relevant.
Cocktail writer?
Yo, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe the definition of one. However, Eli Roth is well spoke. He does know what he's talking about, and he's interesting to listen to. He really is, and I always appreciate that. But yeah, he is kind of he's the coattail guy. I don't think there's any interview I don't think there's an interview out there with him that he doesn't mention Quentin's name, and that drives me kind of bananas.
And it served him well, you know. He got the role of the Bear Jew in Inglourious Basterds, which, by the way, he's very good in. I think he's great in that part. Yeah, he's fun in his like little role in Death Proof. So I mean, he's actually even fun in like Cabin Fever. Like he has a good like on-screen presence too. Like he is very charismatic, you know. But like I said, like from the very beginning, there was also like kind of questionable things about him. Stories definitely came out about his treatment of like, you know, like actresses and his like kind of relationship with fans and the way he can maybe take advantage of female fans, you know, in kind of some pretty creepy degrees. So, and I always felt like with him, I got this sense that he was trying, like that all came from him like wanting to be like well, I like all these like seedy exploitation filmmakers of the 70s, and they were all gross, so I'm going to be like the modern version of that.
Yeah, totally.
And him doing it at a time where like, the rest of the world is like, no, actually we're good, Eli. Like we don't need that anymore, you know. So like when he tells these stories about like how much fun he was having making the actresses in like his Thanksgiving trailer for Grindhouse, just like, you know, like auditioning them by having them take off their tops and bouncing on a trampoline. I think he just thinks it's so funny, and then we're all like, it's not the 70s anymore, buddy. Like, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And then, and just to get out of the way so we don't have to like litigate anymore, in like, you know, in recent months, his political views online have been very, very hard to swallow and very just hard to read and take. And it's really kind of turned me off on like listening to the guy, because I understand the whole Israel-Palestine conflict is very complicated. We're not even going to say anything about it other than like he's had some posts about it that have felt very, very like horribly racist to me and just very disgusting. So, yeah.
That's Eli Roth.
Yep. the director of Amblin's House with the Clock in Its Walls.
Made for 10-year-old boys. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Where do you want to go from there? Like, I mean, I guess we kind of mentioned Amblin and like where... you know what was weird? Actually, listening or listening to an interview with Eli Roth before recording this, he was saying that this movie was part of a relaunch of Amblin, and I was like, wait, when did Amblin ever go away? And then I realized that it kind of didn't dissolve, but it stepped aside from DreamWorks. And then kind of partnered up with different things, and then they allocated different money, and then Spielberg became more on the board. So it became like a whole different thing in 2015. So did you know about that? Like, am I just kind of vaguely...
So the way
did I forget about it? Like, I don't know.
I don't know if I even knew all that stuff, like what you were just saying about it. I never really followed in depth the like behind the scenes machinations of Amblin.
Yeah.
What I kind of always took that, because I remember that kind of speaking point for this movie, that talking point for this movie when it came out, the idea of this being like a return to Amblin. And I always just felt that they were saying more like this is a return to the kind of movies Amblin used to make.
Okay.
Because there was certainly a period where I thought like the Amblin name was only attached to the stuff like, you know, like Lincoln is an Amblin movie, and like War Horse, you know, and like Bridge of Spies. But it's like, well, that's not what I think my generation and probably even your generation thinks of when they hear Amblin, you know. But House of the Clock on Its Walls is more reminiscent of like what I would think of as an Amblin movie from the 80s. So I thought when he said it was like a rebirth of Amblin, I thought that's what they meant. And I remember at the time thinking, is this going to be the start of them making more movies like The Goonies and Gremlins? Is this like the kickoff of it, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, him and Eric Kripke really wanted to make this movie in general. Like, the script is made by Kripke, or written by Kripke, sorry. And I guess he was a big fan of the book when he was a kid. And this was interesting. It kind of led to the creation, or at least being the original inspiration for Supernatural. So I don't believe I've seen like a minute of Supernatural, even though it's been on for 56 years. Now, did you watch that show much? Like, I know people around us and in our inner circle watched it, but were you like a follower of the show, like, ever?
For the briefest of moments, I tried to get into it, and I watched like the first season and a half, and it's not even that I didn't like it. It was fine. You know, it actually really was in the vein of like, you know, you and I are Buffy fans, and it definitely like scratched that Buffy itch at times. So it's not even a show I didn't like. The problem was, and I think you'll probably relate to this very much, and I think this is true of many people who like would just find it daunting today. It's by the time I decided to try and get into it, it was already so far along that I was like, what am I doing? Am I really going to like keep binging this into like season 15 or whatever? And I know everyone says like the kind of common thing everyone always tell you is like, well, just watch the first 5 seasons, because after that, like, you know, Kripke left or whatever, and different people took over, and he tells a complete story in those first 5. But I was just kind of like, I feel like worried I was going to be too much of a completist, or even I don't know. There's something about me where it's like, I don't know, even 5 seasons feels like a lot nowadays, you know, because these are 5, like, they're not like short seasons either. These are full TV network, like 22 episode seasons. So I watched some of it, thought it was fine, but I just tapped out, you know. I didn't have room in my heart for another like long running show like that, and especially at the point that when I was doing that was when it was still on the air, and it just felt like, yeah, it just got renewed for another 8 seasons, where you're like, oh my God, this thing is never going to end. So I can't deal with it. And you're I know you're like joking earlier, but I think I think in a sense it is still going, because I'm pretty sure they just announced like a new, like there's been a couple spinoffs at least, and I think they just announced another one, like a new Supernatural show is starting soon with like both of them coming back maybe. But so
it's like The Boys, like The Boys is, I mean, going to turn out to be a 5-season show. However, we already have the Gen V show, which I quite like, but that's gonna keep going. There's also the it's kind of franchising, isn't it? Like different spots in the world, they're gonna be like international The Boys or whatever. I'm just not into that. So I'll be done with The Boys when it's over, and that's it. But
what I will say for Supernatural is, like, if you want to just like, if you ever wanted to get like a sense of it in any way, like, because the one episode I jumped ahead to watch because I heard everyone like rave about it, is they do a crossover episode of Scooby-Doo, where they actually get pulled into Scooby-Doo, and then it goes into the actual like full-on Scooby-Doo animation style, and they got the Scooby-Doo voice actors, and that's a really great episode. But is it good enough to make me then go, I'll watch the other 948 episodes? No, but that's really fun, especially to watch like around Halloween. And all you really need to know is it's these two demon hunting brothers, So.
Well, I wanted to bring up Eric Kripke and his love for the book because, by all accounts, other than one pretty significant change, which I'll get to when we talk about the movie, but it's pretty close to the book. From what I'm getting.
Because, like I said, I never read the book either, but obviously, like you, and doing the research, I went and read a summary of the book, and I was like, oh, wow, that is pretty much the movie I just watched. Yeah. Like, and that is not usually the case when we watch these like YA or kids book adaptations. We just did like Beautiful Creatures recently, which did a lot of changes, including changes in the entire ending and everything. And then this one was like, oh wow, so they just did the book. That's pretty refreshing, actually. If the book was popular enough to spawn a 12-book series and remain a beloved classic that I'd never heard of for all these decades, but still, like, why not just do it? And that's what they did.
And I guess that's what's gonna lead into our conversation right away here about the movie, because I'm going to be interested to dissect why this didn't lead into many more sequels, right? Because if they just did the book, and the book did very well, like why didn't this become Harry Potter for like the Halloween age? You know what I mean? So
well, can I even just to like one last thought before we go into like the trailer and then our review?
Yeah, no, of course.
Because that spins off into, because like to further along that question of, isn't it weird that we don't have more of these? Because not only do we know there's 12 books, and not only do we know this has like the backing of like Amblin and Spielberg, and it was a financial hit, but it has a full on one of the last remaining movie megastars in the lead. And I think it's worth talking about, because like you, I'm sure I've been listening to like a lot of movie podcasts in the last few months, all kind of have this like come to a reckoning moment of going like, oh my God, like we haven't been talking about this, but I think we all have to admit Jack Black is like one of the biggest stars in the world. He's just like it's just kind of undeniable now after Minecraft and after, the success of like the Jumanji films and just like, Kung Fu Panda, and it's Super Mario even, which was sold on him very heavily.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's just like quickly worth talking about. I can't remember if we've ever done a Jack Black movie before, or if he's ever come up in a discussion, but I do. Look, I guess we can just like do this really quick. I want to ask you, and then I'll go. But like, where do you fall on Jack Black in general? Like, fan, not a fan? Has it changed over time? What do you think?
I think it's maybe up and down, but he's always been a presence in my life, and which is interesting because he has become, as you're saying, we listen to very similar, talking points out there in the ether, but he really is a movie star for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And like, of course, I'm a millennial, and I look at him as a movie star as well. And but I saw him when he was more or less dabbling in a lot of things. Like he was dabbling in, of course, comedy and his music and a lot more drama, like especially like with King Kong, like when he decided to be working with Peter Jackson on that movie. But I think nowadays he is the modern generation's, Tom Cruise in a lot of ways. And I think these movies are doing gangbusters. Like this Jumanji franchise is hugely popular with young people. We just saw the Minecraft movie just break a ton of records, and I don't know if I was that shocked about Minecraft doing well, but it looked like utter garbage So for it to do the business it did while looking like absolute like trash, I was like, wow, okay, this is Jack Black's star power mixed with like an incredible IP. And that is kind of as well, it goes with the Mario movie recently. I know you're not as huge of a fan. I thought it was like pretty good. I'm not even like, hip to it in a lot of ways, but it's undeniable the childlike following that Jack Black has.
That's the point I want to make, is like, if anyone out there is listening to us and you're still kind of, because I've seen this argument too, is people will try to like counter that argument and say, well, but he just picks like he picks like the right projects, right? And he picks IPs that are going to be hits anyway. Super Mario was always going to be a hit. Minecraft was always going to be a hit. The Jumanji films are ensembles and they were going to be a hit. And there may be the slightest element of truth to that, and that those were all probably going to do pretty well. But there's just no way to deny that a lot of their success falls on his shoulders.
Oh yeah.
And like they were like heavily sold on him, but then also like look at what from those movies became viral and became like so beloved after the fact. Super Mario Brothers, it's the Peaches song. Everybody just that was the big thing that people wanted to talk about and like kind of revisit with that movie. You can't say he doesn't matter the success of Minecraft when even me, someone who didn't care about that movie and could have avoided it for all like I just wanted to avoid it. Did I see Lava Chicken on my TikTok and Twitter feeds for like months afterwards? The song, yes, I did. Did I keep seeing him yell chicken jockey? Sure did. There's something about his screen presence that, like you said, it's just kind of amazing because he's got an older fan base, and that's where I would fall in.
Sure.
Obviously like an old school Jack Black fan who loved him from Tenacious D, back in the day, and like was so on board when he was just like the scene stealer in High Fidelity, and then being very excited when he did School of Rock. And it's like, oh yeah, he's getting his first like kind of lead role, and then getting to a point where it's like, wow, we're getting a lot of Jack Black, huh? Like kind of just getting a little tired of it, but he's just so likable and he's got a shtick, and the shtick can sometimes be kind of overwhelming, but it's hard to ever hate it, because it's just like, I don't know. It's
because he's genuine.
He's genuine and so naturally innocent, and that's the last button I want to put on that. I think that's why he's really popular with my generation, because we still always think of him as Tenacious D, and he can still fall back on that too. He can easily slip back into like the kind of raunchy kind of side of that. Mm-hmm. But there's always something about him that just speaks to children, and that's why School of Rock was like the perfect like first vehicle for him as like tested as a movie star, because he is a big child. And like that's actually a gift, and that's something that a lot of like actors and entertainers don't have, where they can just like relate to children like on their level by being just like goofy and manic in a way that kids really react to. Like Jim Carrey had that for a time. I'd say actually Tim Allen had that, despite what whatever else you might think about him. But Jack Black definitely has it.
I think the word you said, the innocence, was really apt, and I just keep thinking about like every single late night appearance that Jack Black has ever made has always been kind of a joy. Like he's never phoning it in. He's always doing some wacky performance, but he's like lovable and he's goofy, and he seems to genuinely care about the project that he did, regardless of the quality. Like, again, do I think even Jack Black thinks that Minecraft was some artistic, revelatory, thing? No, he just had a blast making it, and I believe he did. You know what I mean? I think he, like you said, he is a big kid, and he allows himself to look like a big kid. There's certain things recently that I thought he was just shows how in tune he is with even like the human condition. Not to get all heady about it, but he just genuinely seems so emotionally intelligent. And there was oh my God, I can't remember the talk show, but it was recent, so it's one of those daytime talk shows that are on right now. And maybe the one with Jennifer Hudson, maybe it's that one. But me and my fiance watched this show on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum. And
I know the clip you're talking about. Okay. Yeah, with that guy who was like obsessed with him. Yeah. Yes.
So Love on the Spectrum is a very, very sweet, endearing, beautiful show of watching people with, that are on the spectrum trying to find love and navigate modern dating. And I think it's very entertaining for sure, but you're never laughing at these people. You just love them so much. Okay. And one of these guys, Tanner, I believe his name is, was on the show, on the Jennifer Hudson show or something, promoting the show, and just said how much he loves Jack Black. And Jack Black showed up on the show to surprise him. And the clip, find the clip, Tanner, Love on the Spectrum, Jack Black. Go Google that in YouTube or whatever and check out that clip. And the way Jack handles the situation is just, it's beautiful. And I think that is the reason why people love him to this day and will continue to love him. I think he doesn't have a cynical bone in his body, at least in the public eye. You know what I mean? So,
other than when George Clooney tells him to break up Tenacious D, because Kyle Gass made a Trump joke, but yeah. Still a little salty about that, not gonna lie. I know they'll be back. I know it's gonna be in a year or something. It's gonna be like, Tenacious D is back, and Jack and Kyle will forgive him. But
for sure.
I didn't like that because I'm also a Kyle Gass fan as well.
Totally.
Yeah, no, but just to push even a little further on something you just said, because I think I think you're dead right where you say Jack Black didn't think he was making Shakespeare or anything special with Mine or anything incredible on a qualitative level with Minecraft. But neither did he ever look down on making it or think it was below him. And like you said, not only did he make it because he could have a lot of fun, but he knew kids would think it's fun. And I think that's I think he just clocks into that. And someone who his entire kind of sense of humor and style of humor is built around silliness and nonsense words and crazy verbal, just scatting and stuff. That's always gonna, first of all,
facial expressions, his cartoony look. It
all translates internationally too. He's not just so verbally based with wordplay that international audiences wouldn't get him. He's a big clown, and kids are always going to respond to that. And I think I said this earlier, but he's just a big kid, and that's why he works so well in this family film realm, and that's why he's going to continue to be one of our biggest stars, because he's really found his place in that. And that's a genre that will never go away, because parents always need something to take their kids to, and kids are always going to bug their parents to take them to movies like that.
Totally. Okay, so why didn't kids bug their parents to go to this movie a million times? Why did this movie, I guess, fail? And we will discuss that on the other side of this.
Last stop. Lewis, I'm your Uncle Jonathan.
Are you wearing a robe?
It's a kimono. Here we are. Home sweet home.
You're Lewis, I presume. How was your trip?
This old hag is my neighbor.
I'm relieved to see you didn't inherit your uncle's freakishly oversized head.
My God, did that withered purple skeleton just speak? You'll see, it's quite different here. Have a look around. You're perfectly safe.
That's safe.
As long as it's fed. Do you know what a warlock is, Lewis?
A boy witch.
I think they're a little more than boy witches.
Are you saying that you're a warlock? Please teach me, please, please.
Okay, have it your way. I can give you the right books, teach you the right spells, but that last 1%, that's up to you.
I don't want the creepy little runt. Think I want him? Lucky shot.
You've told Lewis everything?
Well, not everything.
Do you hear the ticking, ticking, ticking?
This house used to be owned by another warlock.
He's very wicked, very powerful.
He left a hidden clock in the walls. We don't know what it does, except something horrible. Three gongs. Last time it was 4. What happens when it gets down to 1?
Nothing good, that's for certain.
We have to destroy the clock. So creepy.
You can't do this alone. I can help you. You want to see some real magic? I'll show you.
Shall we?
God, I hate pumpkins.
Did you see that?
After his parents are killed in a car crash, 10-year-old Louis Barneveld goes to live with his uncle Jonathan. There, he's introduced to Florence Zimmerman, a woman with a contentious friendship with his uncle. During the night, Louis hears a ticking sound in the walls and begins exploring the house for its origin. After being frightened by strange happenings in the house, Jonathan confesses that he's a warlock and Florence is a witch, and that their old friend Isaac Izzard hid a mysterious clock within the walls of the house before he died. Ever since, Jonathan has been trying to find it and discover its purpose, and in the meantime, Louis takes his first steps into this magical and sometimes scary new world.
Pretty good synopsis. The House of the Clock and Swallows. If you don't mind, Chris, I'll go first on this one.
Sure.
Because I think this was a first time watch for you, but I should say I had never read this book before, but this was a second time watch for me. I had seen this movie before. I can't remember if I had ever told you that before, but so this is a revisit for me. And I'll say what I remembered about the movie the first time I watched it was that I liked it, and I remembered nothing else. So I sat down to watch it for this time, and it was a second watch, and it might as well have been a first time watch, because it's just like I remember thinking this is pretty good, and then watching it, and I'll say my overall takeaway again is I watched it and I thought this is pretty good. I quite like this, but I also do think, again, in about like a couple weeks, couple months, definitely like a year or so, I will forget a lot of it again. So it kind of like exists in that realm for me, where it's like I don't really have too much negative to say about it. I actually think it's very, very effective at what it is, and I do want to talk about like why I actually think I do think Jack Black was a great choice for the lead. I actually think Eli Roth was a pretty inspired choice to direct it, and I'll talk about that as we talk more in our review. I think the MVP of the movie is, we haven't even said her name yet, but Cate Blanchett, who plays.
I said her in my intro. I said in my intro in my little rhyme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah. Okay. See, we both don't listen to each other. But yeah, Cate Blanchett is the MVP of this movie for me. But yeah, there's actually quite a bit of this movie that does scratch that old like Amblin itch for me, and I do think this actually is a very effective kind of like, at times, a very effective gateway horror family movie that is exactly the kind of just like I said earlier, innocent spookiness that I like to watch, particularly in the fall, like around October, around Halloween time. This movie has some Halloween elements to it, even though I don't know that it's necessarily taking place at Halloween. But yeah, I enjoy this. I think it's just like it's a really fun like romp. The one criticism I'll say now, which can kind of lead into like other thoughts later, because I want to try and figure this out, is I was going to say, I think the problem with this movie is that it's just too long, and I think they should have like cut like 20 minutes out. And then I just looked at the running time, and it's only 105 minutes. Yeah. So it's not a long movie. There's something about the structure of it and the pacing that makes it feel longer than that. Yeah. And that's what I felt watching it, whereas like you get a certain point, especially in the middle of the film, where it starts to feel a little bit tedious at a certain point. I think it kind of comes back around at the end, but so I'm interested to talk to you with you about that, about like what is the pacing problem here, or if you even recognized it. But that was like my biggest hurdle. But otherwise, I like the performances. I like some of the fun magic stuff. I like the spookiness. I'm team House of the Clock as well, as I quite enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's fine. Like it's an okay little movie. I might be like a fraction more negative than you.
Yeah, and that probably comes from like you not being as into this kind of genre as me.
Totally,
too. So,
totally.
Yeah.
Okay, this is okay. It gets to the what you're saying about the pacing, because it's not a long movie at all, but it does feel long, and I think it only really kicks into gear in the last 20 minutes. And the last 20 minutes is what I will remember and think about. Because if I'm being honest, I watched this only a few days ago, and everything before that 20 minutes is hard for me to even remember what I watched. So, but in the moment, I thought it was pretty good. Where I think it fails to grab the, attention or whimsical nature of like an Amblin film is that it's neither whimsical enough or scary enough to kind of hold a place in your memory. And like, it's oddly, there's not a lot of style to it. It's very confidently made. Like, Eli Roth, good job with a bigger budget than usual. And, it looks really good. It's shot, with intention. But there's kind of a shocking, like, minimal amount of magic that's actually kind of happening throughout the movie. and that wasn't sitting well. I wish there was more. There was a very little amount of quirk or strangeness, oddly enough. Like I think a Burton or a Raimi is a little bit different than an Eli Roth. But I think I wanted this to be more of a magical roller coaster than waiting for the last 20 minutes, because the difference between, I guess, Amblin movies of the past and then this one is this one just lacked a pretty significant amount of wonder. Yeah. And I think I as the audience surrogate that is Lewis, right? I feel like when you watch a movie like this when you're 10 years old, as if like when you watch a Harry Potter or whatever other these wish fulfillment child films are, or like you find Gizmo the Gremlin, or you find E.T., Elliot, you find E.T., you find a best friend. There's something about this movie that I just don't really care about this world at all. There's nothing super interesting for me to be like, wow, I really want to live in that house. I really want to.
When you say you don't care about this world at all, do you mean Michigan? Because watch it, buddy.
I mean, I've been there, so yeah, I do mean that. I came to visit years ago. Yes. I had a great time. To all our Michiganders out there. But yeah, I just felt it was very kind of plain. And oddly enough, for a movie about a fantastical house with a clock in its walls with spooky, weird things going on, I just found it kind of just a little bit too plain for me to want to be there, to visit, to be interested even in the plot. Like how there's about an hour goes by and you still don't exactly know why you should be fearful of what's his name? Izzard? Isaac. Like returning. You don't even really know why. And you're over halfway through and you're still like, okay, well, let's just get to the denouement of this whole thing. Like, I don't even know the conflict yet. But having said all that, Jack Black and Cate Blanchett are movie stars. So, I mean, they're pretty inspired choices to lead our main character Lewis through the proceedings. So I have like nothing bad to say about Jack Black or Cate Blanchett, or even Kyle MacLachlan either. I mean, he's only in the movie for a little bit, but these are people with on-screen presence that elevate the material. But I think it's good, yeah, but quite forgettable.
It's interesting. I'm actually glad. Like, it's fun to have this conversation with you and hear the opinion of more of like, I don't want to use the word normie, but like...
Well, you can say normie.
Yeah, well, normie for this genre, right?
Sure,
because because obviously I can't dispute when you say like there's nothing here that's like super like memorable in its spookiness or magic. I just said a moment ago that I forgot everything about this movie after watching it a few years ago, right? So I can't I can't deny that at all, and I'm sure I will again. I think this comes down to total personal preference, and it's fun to have these kind of conversations about the things we love. I think, look, I'm right with you. This does not hold up to the Amblin movies of the 80s, right? But I think why it maybe ticks a box for me a little bit more than for you is that I feel like this kind of movie had just vanished so much.
Sure.
So it's like we got to a point where it's like even like a minor one like this, I'm like, oh my God, at least there's like a studio movie that's like trying to be like a kind of spooky Halloween kids gateway horror movie again, And like it this, not, and again, I know we had the Goosebumps movies, but I didn't think those were as successful. So with this one, I was kind of more like, yes, this is what I remember actually seeing. What I do remember was watching it the first time being like, this was kind of more what I was looking for with the Goosebumps movie a little bit. Right. And I think the thing about Eli Roth directing it, when you say there's not a lot of style, I get the sense, and I don't know if it's that he was worried about having Spielberg looking over his shoulder, or that it's like he's playing with his biggest budget ever. And I'm sure there's more pressure on him to do this than ever before. Sure. He's the Green Inferno guy, and suddenly he's being trusted with an Amblin movie. So there might have been a sense of playing it safe. But I do think there are moments where it's like I kind of get the sense of like why they hired him and why I think he was a good choice. Because there are some moments that I think are fairly creepy for like a kids movie. There's a scene where when he's like kind of like stalking around the house for the first night, and he wanders into the room with all the dolls and all like the kind of like automatons. Like the way that scene is filmed and framed and everything, it's actually like, I'm not to say I had like chills and I couldn't watch it, but for a kids movie, it's like this is like appropriately creepy. And I think there are some moments like that. And I also think this is the Amblin thing, and this is where I can watch it and go like, I know this is an Amblin movie, even if it's not quite hitting the heights of original Amblin. Is you and I were just saying earlier before the break that one of the problems with like kids entertainment today is that the people making it don't want to scare kids or are worried about it more in a sense where they shouldn't be. And they also want to treat kids too much like kids, and they never want to treat kids like adults to a certain degree, which kids also like and respond to. And this movie does get into some kind of heavy themes. There's a lot of talk in this movie about death. Like the stakes of this movie actually involve death. And even like the brief moment where Cate Blanchett like reveals, so she's like this like witch who can no longer do magic, and it's kind of like a mystery through the movie why that is. And she ultimately tells her story to Lewis and talks about how she once had a family and she lost them. And then as she like hands him a cookie or something, you see she has the Holocaust, tattoo on her arm. Like that's the kind of thing that like wouldn't be in most kids' movies. And like in a moment like that, I go like, that's the Amblin thing, right? Where it's like, let's let these heavy themes in. And like I think a lot of filmmakers and studios would be nervous and say like kids can't deal with that. But I like a movie that says like, no, they can. Kids can deal with that. They can deal with the main character whose parents have just died, and he's like really grieving them. And the villains can even like pose as his dead mom to take advantage of him. Like I respond well to that stuff. So yeah, like I said, even like a minor entry in that genre, I just was like I felt like I was in a desert of this genre, and this was like a small little oasis, you know. So I probably enjoyed it more in that sense.
No, and I don't argue any of that. That's for sure. I do wish Lewis had more reaction to stuff, as always, with these types of movies. That drives me crazy. You just said, you alluded to his dead mother showing up to him a few times, and he acts like no biggie. That kind of was annoying. But yes, this is what we said. This is an Amblin movie. This is a child's movie that has an edge to it. And I think Eli Roth works for that, and also what works is his juvenile humor. I think that's a part of it, as the reason why Spielberg was like, this is the guy for this project too. You know, Spielberg's on record saying he loved the Hostel movies, and that's a huge reason why he hired him for this. And there is a lot of, there's poop jokes in this, right? And that is in Eli Roth's wheelhouse. Does it work all the time? Not so much, but maybe if I was an 8-year-old watching this, I would have laughed at the big lion hedge creature shitting some leaves in his face.
Go to it a little too many times. I understand the rule of 3, but that could have just been the rule of 1, you know?
Exactly. But as we said, that's Eli Roth. Right? Yeah. That is his humor, and it works until it doesn't. I especially like the last 20 minutes, and I think that's where Eli Roth comes alive. More so that he allows himself to take some more chances. Like the killer pumpkins, you know? Yes. Almost like an Attack of the Killer Tomatoes type thing. I love that. And it's almost a substitute for his gore and gross stuff. You know, like these pumpkins throw up on our characters and they explode and all their innards are all over our characters, and it's gross, but it's pumpkin juice, you know? And I think Eli Roth's having more fun shooting that than he is doing a lot of exposition in the first hour. A lot.
Yeah, I can't imagine Eli Roth, and this is what I mean. Like, he was picked to do this movie. I'm sure it was like a huge honor. He wanted to do well. He wanted to please Spielberg, of course. Who wouldn't, right? And he wanted to like, bring in a hit. But I can't imagine Eli Roth as the sort of director who found it super exciting to go to set on the days where he was just going to be directing exposition scenes with a kid talking about like what happened to his parents or something. I'm sure he couldn't wait to get to the crazier stuff.
And it's because Eli Roth seems like he would be a bully to this kid anyways. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and so, what's funny, because you said the thing about how Eli Roth has like, kind of the poop humor, but another thing Eli Roth like kind of trades in is offensive, tasteless humor. Yeah. And there's a joke in this that I was just, I watched it, I was like kind of taken aback, and I was like, wow, this joke would just not fly in like most kids movies. And the fact that it's in there is like, whoa. And it's the part where, so when Lewis goes to school, like he moves to this new town, he goes to school the first day, and you hard cut to him in gym class. And it's the old joke about like the kids are picking their teams for basketball. Yeah. and they don't want to pick Lewis, but it's down to Lewis and one other kid, and that kid has like he's like I don't know, he's supposed to be like a polio or whatever, but he's got 2 crutches.
Yeah.
And I just like, wow, and like maybe I'm gonna go to hell, but that made me laugh. Like I was like, this is very funny, and especially when
same.
Then that they do pick that kid over him, and then we actually cut to them like playing basketball, and every time the kids ran by, and then he came by really slow, and the coach is like, great hustle, and he's like, thanks, coach. And it's like this is. And that's what I mean. Like that's the kind of joke that used to be in '80s kids comedies, and that's what I mean. I think as we got so overly sensitive and too like, you don't want to offend anybody.
Yep.
Like we lost something there, and that's again where it's like, okay, I like that this movie actually goes there with it. You know.
No, I agree. That was probably the funniest joke of the whole movie.
Yeah.
And they at least give the crutch kid a great 3-pointer. So
that's the thing is like
he's
it's
actually
like
good.
At first that's the thing too is like it's not like the joke doesn't end up being as mean as it seems because it's not really talking down on this kid or making fun of his disability. Like the fact is it's like actually like, oh, he's like surprisingly good. So that was fun. But yeah, like the other thing the last 20 minutes has going for it is Kyle MacLachlan shows up too.
Yeah,
so it's like you suddenly have, like you said, you have like another star that you and I both really enjoy and who brings another kind of dynamic performance to this. I also will say it does take too long for us to get to it. And
extremely, way too long.
It should be revealed like earlier in the movie, like what his plan is. But actually for like evil bad guy plans in like kids movies, I like this one. I like the overall idea of like, you know, creating this like magic clock and like rewinding time so like it just like de-ages everyone until like humanity disappears and he just wants to like send Earth back to primitive times and him and his wife will just be the only 2 people left. It's like that's a pretty cool bad guy plot. So
but also going back to your headier themes, it's because the horrors that he witnessed in World War II.
Yeah.
Like that's the Amblin that we're getting at, you know, like not only is he just de-aging everybody and going back to primitive times, it's because he witnessed such atrocities that he was willing to make a deal with a demon.
And that was even a change. I know that's one of the changes they made from the book, right? Because the book takes place before World War II, and they decided to change it to after World War II so that all these characters could be dealing with the trauma of World War II, and it works so well. Because that's actually a great flashback, too. Like, that's, like, stylistically one of the better looking parts, where we see him, like, kind of wandering through the battlefields of World War II, just, like, completely traumatized, and then coming across that demon. And that part is actually kind of, like, you know, scary and creepy for a kid's movie, too. So, yeah, the
demon design is awesome. Azazel is just so creepy, and like he does like a blood oath and like it licks his hand with like this gross like slither tongue, and it's just it works. Like I don't really have many notes for the last act other than magic not really saving the day. That
I thought you were gonna say other than that the scariest thing in the movie, the Jack Black baby.
Yes, the Jack Black baby was terrifying. That looked like a mix of practical and CGI, hey?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they built that baby.
Yeah.
So that imagine
getting that assignment. Imagine like you're like you've been like training so long to become a special effects artist and to build practical puppets, and it's just like your life's work, and they're like, oh my God, Chris, you're hired by Amblin. You're gonna work for Steven Spielberg. You're like, oh my God, this is the culmination of my life's dream. This is so exciting. What is my first assignment? You have to build a naked Jack Black baby. Like, oh God.
But yes, I that was terrifying. Again, still pretty funny because it's like an audacious visual. It's like, oh my God, what the fuck am I looking at here?
Well, like we said, Jack Black comes across always as like a big child, right? So it like there's something like it seems like so appropriate, and like it's like the natural like of course, you know, Jack Black would be like a baby with a giant head.
But again, it's like spoilers for this movie, I guess, but. It's revealed way early on that Lewis has the one thing that his family gave him, like the one last remnant of his mom and dad, and is this magic 8-ball they used to use all the time. So like throughout the movie, he's using this magic 8-ball, he's asking it questions, yada yada. And at the very end of this movie, he basically just throws the magic 8-ball down into the gears of the clock, and then it just, you know, clogs it. and that to me was a little bit just kind of not a cop out, because I understand it's the last remnant of his parents and this and that.
Yeah,
but I liked it for that reason. Yeah, I did, but like I wish it was more magic. Again, I wish there was more magic, more whimsy, more
I kind of agree
more
with that.
wonder.
I like on a thematic level, I like the idea that he's giving up this last thing. He's like finally accepting his parents' death, and so he can give her this object. But I agree that like that plastic magic 8-ball stopped the evil doomsday clock. Like it's a little shaky. Like it's definitely better thematically than it is logically.
Totally.
Yeah.
But no, everybody's really good in this. The kid is okay, and I'm not here to make fun of actors, but Owen Vaccaro is okay.
I grade all performances like this on a curve, you know. So yeah,
he's fine, and that's just a problem with movies like this with a 10-year-old protagonist. It's something that's been an age-old problem since the beginning of cinema. And it doesn't help that you have the great Jack Black and Cate Blanchett in every single scene with the kid.
Yeah. He's not being blown off the screen by them, but he's not really like elevating anything either. But I don't necessarily expect a 10-year-old to. So like I said, it's just one of those things. There's every generation gets their oh my god amazing child performer, and then there's a lot of ones that are like okay serviceable.
Totally.
So
and in this case they didn't get a Daniel Radcliffe or totally 100%.
Yeah.
But I liked Jack Black and Cate Blanchett in the way that they are really good at hamming it up. I really liked their contentious friendship of like kind of giving jabs at each other throughout with their witty dialogue.
Yeah, I also just like that it is a friendship, and the movie calls that out very early on, like almost immediately. Like Lewis asks if they're together, and they both are just like disgusted by that. But I love that it just tells us that this is just an entirely platonic friendship, and it's just like really fun to see that at like a movie center.
Absolutely. And then they both have the ability to become serious. Like we mentioned the alluding to being a survivor of the Holocaust, which is wild that was in this movie. But then also Jack Black as Jonathan Barneveld really does care for his nephew. And he wants his nephew to live a good life and wants him to be protected and does want to train him in magic and wants him to be a part of this world. However, is going to shield and protect him if things go screwy. And I think it really comes out that he is a protector and he is he's like a real character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's not just goofy fun Jack Black.
Yeah, and I don't want to pretend that this is like an Academy Award worthy performance or anything.
No.
But we know Jack Black can actually do drama fairly effectively as well, and there's hints of this here. So as we said, he's Lewis's uncle. He's specifically the brother of Lewis's deceased mom. So but he's never met his uncle before until the very first scene of the movie, right? So like his parents die, and then the uncle reaches out and says, "I'm going to, take over guardianship for you." Mm-hmm. And there's a pretty great scene where he's like talking to him, and Jack Black kind of explains the reason he left home early was that his dad was just so ashamed of him, and his dad didn't like that he did magic, and was like just like kind of like embarrassed by it and everything. And so he left, even though him and his sister were like really good friends, but he left home because he was just like, he couldn't be around the dad anymore. And the scene where Lewis asks him, like, why didn't you come to the funeral? And he's just like, well, I just assumed she wouldn't have wanted me there. And Lewis is like, she missed you. She talked about you like all the time. And like Jack Black plays that part like really, really effective. Like you can see like the regret on his face and like realizing he messed up. And like, it's like, well, it's again. So I like this movie bothers with like these headier themes, even if it could have gone further with some of them, sure. But the fact that they're at all raises it a little bit above a lot of kids slop we get, for sure.
I agree. Yeah. I wish Lewis, I wish I knew why he wanted to be a warlock like Jonathan just a little bit more. I think
it's kind of, they're kind of leaning too much on like the idea that like any 10-year-old boy would, and it's like, yeah, totally. Sure, but like, yeah, you can still push that further.
Because like I can, because I've seen movies and I'm, I have somewhat basic intelligence, that I can be like, okay, well, there's a sense of longing or belonging that this kid wants, right? And he sees an out or an in to do that sort of thing. So like I get it, but it doesn't really show it. And I wish we saw his parents before. I don't know. It becomes a lot of tell, no show. And not that I need it, and I don't need movies to be longer or hold my hand, but it would have been nice to see him interact with his family before his mom shows up as a trap. You know, and I think maybe even thematically I would feel it more, or emotionally feel it more. But I think there's a lot of tell. And I think that goes back to like the pacing of it. And I think that's why me and you both react a little negatively in that first hour of just being, okay, like, let's get this thing going, you know, rather than just keep on telling me what I should know versus just showing me it.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in that first hour that I do like, but there's just something about the movie where the pacing never quite clicks in. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like you know, I've already mentioned like the scene I was just talking about with Jack Black, kind of like the regret there. I actually also like the somewhat friendship turned like sour relationship that Lewis develops with Tarby, the classmate at school, like because that all plays really real to me as well. So Tarby is like. He was the most popular kid in school. He was like he was like played football with other kids and everything, but he's recently broken his arm. And because since his arm is broke, he can't play with everyone anymore. He's become kind of a loner. So he like strikes up this relationship with Lewis, this friendship. And I actually like think some of their scenes together are really kind of sweet too. Like the scene where he asks Lewis, like, why do you always wear those goggles? And tells him like, you know, if you didn't wear the goggles, maybe it'd be easier for you. People would stop making fun of you. So I like that even though later, and this feels really real to me too, like once Tarby's cast is off and once he wins like class president, he's suddenly popular again, so he has like less time for Lewis.
Sure.
But it would have been easy to just have him be the bully for the whole movie, right? But that moment where you see like his humanity, where he actually tries to help Lewis, and then even later on, you can kind of tell that like whenever Lewis asks him to come back over, like trying to win him back over, and he's like, kind of, come on, I'll show you magic. He does show up, right? I think there's still something there where he kind of still likes Lewis. He just is like, he can't really admit it around his other friends. So it's like, again, like there's like all these like really good thematic things here, but it's just like it's just moving too slow for all of them to like entirely effectively work. But yeah, that's my only big complaint. It's just there's something off about the pacing on this movie for me, where I do start to I feel the length, especially about 20-30 minutes in and until that last like 20 or 15 minutes.
I'm glad you mentioned that actor that Sonny Soljic plays Tarby Corrigan. That's a good little actor.
Yeah, maybe he should have been Lewis.
We don't like making fun of child actors, but that was my thoughts almost immediately when he showed up. I was like, I kind of wish these roles were reversed. There's just a little bit more depth to him, and I think, and I think it's because what you're saying, he's got more range in as a character. Like, not I'm not even trying to say that as the actor, but as the character, we're seeing Tarby lose his social status, and then find a replacement in the interim of regaining his social status and then switching it again. And I think that's just more to chew on. But I do like their relationship, and I like that he's there for when they get the evil book, the spell book, and then unknowingly resurrect Isaac. And he just fucking books it. I thought that was very, very funny that he just runs. That was great. And that was another little change from the book, too, that they resurrect in the book Selena Izzard from the tomb versus the actual Isaac Izzard. So a little minor change there. And I see why. In a movie, you got to resurrect Isaac. You got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
We want Kyle MacLachlan, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We don't need, respectfully, Lorenza Izzo, Eli Roth's then wife. No, wait.
Yeah.
Different person.
She's the one playing the mom. Yeah.
She's playing the mom.
The mom goes. Yeah.
Who is the one playing?
Renee Elise Goldsberry plays Selena. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't need her either.
Posing as the mom for most of the movie. Yeah.
Yes. That's what it was.
I do actually think she's good in this though, too. Like in the scenes as the mom. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think? Do you think they look similar?
Her and Eli Roth, or
yeah. They have a little bit of that couples look alike.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. I mean, I definitely would say I'm more attracted to her than Eli Roth, but
well, speak for yourself, I guess.
I mean, speaking of attracted, can we just? I mean, I already said to me like Cate Blanchett is the MVP, and I mean, she's probably Cate Blanchett's going to be the MVP in most movies she's in. But
I bet she's the MVP in Borderlands when we have to talk about that in a few years. But
yeah, I know, and that's actually pretty interesting too. Again, for like so I get that like a lot of people just like totally poo-poo Eli Roth as like a filmmaker and just a person and everything, but it is interesting that like. Kate Blanchett actually had like a really good working relationship with him. You know, he hired one of like the arguably top 3 actors in the world. She did this movie and she's like, I want to work with you again, you know.
Sure.
And like and I've heard her like really talk up like Eli Roth, and so it's interesting that they became friends after this. But yeah, Kate Blanchett, to me, I don't know if you agree, but she's just like maybe the most beautiful actress in the world. And like I just like love her look in this too. Like
she
I
is
think anytime you have Kate Blanchett kind of do that old school, like you know, like in Nightmare Alley or in this, when she's like really locking into that old 40s femme fatale kind of look, man, strong stuff. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm not using this word correctly, as I know you will, but she's got like this ethereal beauty to her.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you like Lord of the Rings, like her in that. It's like that's the definition of ethereal, obviously.
What really made me realize just like how attractive she is. And I'm not. Again, we're not trying to sound.
We're not
like
boiling her down to that either. She's also amazingly talented, and she's just like you can also add circles around everybody in this movie. And she's a great person. Yeah,
you just said that she's like one of the top 5 actresses in the world. Yeah. So we believe in that for sure. However, I need to say, when I saw her in Curious Case of Benjamin Button, I was like, and Blue Jasmine, I was like, wow, she's absolutely stunning. And,
if anything, if you think we're being gross, if anything, actually, we're like being like angry. Like, how dare she? How dare she be like that, like beautiful and that talented? Like, that's not fair to everybody else, you know?
No, it's not fair. It's not fair. Yeah, no. We you know what? We've talked about her before in Robin Hood in 2010. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's a good Marion.
Sure, that's another movie I don't remember at all. So I'll take your word for it.
Sure.
You could have just said she was a good Robin, and I'd be like, yeah, I guess she played Robin. I don't remember. But...
Her filmography is so fascinating because, like you're just saying, she's worked with Eli Roth twice now, and she doesn't have like. Okay, can I spoil a major spoiler for a big Netflix TV show that is currently airing right now?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay, I'm okay. Okay, if you watch Netflix right now and there's a giant show called...
Oh, I know exactly what we're talking about. I've seen this moment online. Yeah.
Okay. So it's airing in the last couple months. The series finale. That's all I'm telling you. Anyways, she has a cameo at the very end of that show.
Which
and
seems
I was
to
pretty
insinuate
shocked.
She will be like in the next version of it, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
It was pretty shocking when she showed up. I was genuinely floored that she was doing that, and like you're saying, potentially in the next incarnation. That's all I'll say. She was also amazing in Black Bag and stunning in that too. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. Everything like Tar. Can we do Tar on this? I know they were talking about doing Tar too. Tard.
Oh my God, retar. Never mind. Is that okay? Hey, let's retard. Okay. Yeah, this movie's fine. In a lot of ways. I don't. It's like a good sit.
It's the kind of movie I would exactly expect you to think is fine, and me to be like, yeah, it's a little bit more than fine. And again, that just entirely comes down to like me being like, yay, another like fun Halloween movie. You know, like exactly the thing that makes me value like Elvira Mistress of the Dark a little bit more too, right? It's like it's clicking into that exact kind of itch where it's like you said, this movie has evil jack-o'-lanterns that come to life and try to murder people by vomiting pumpkin seeds on them. I'm gonna like it, you know. It's like I'm just this movie's like speaking to me. So
sure,
yeah.
In the last 20 minutes, but yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. No,
that's my only negative. Is I just wish there was more, because it's got such a great feeling and vibe in the climax of this movie that it's like, why? I mean, you have the powers of Spielberg behind you. Like, why not have that sense throughout? I just find it, and I'm not even trying to minimize, because there is some things. Like, I'm not saying it's devoid of anything, but I just kind of, not that I needed Hogwarts, but I needed to be like, wow, this is mansion. I want to check out every nook and cranny of this place, you know?
Yeah, it's like I was just about to say I don't really know what the fix is, but maybe the fix just is more scenes of Lewis kind of going through the house and interacting with the house more. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea of the house being alive, and there's a scene where Jonathan even says like, well, the house clearly likes you.
Yeah.
And we get like the smallest sense of that and like the way the house responds to him, but maybe that's what we need to see more of, right? Is like the house being a friend to Lewis more. Like, what is it like to be friends with a house, in a magical house? And what
Honestly,
does that look like?
It looks like Beauty and the Beast. It looks like Belle
guess, yeah,
and
it's
all the
been done,
furniture loving her, and the spoons and
It
the
was
forks.
It was really nice to see Cherry from Pee-wee's Playhouse still getting work in this movie. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So I guess, I don't know, like, I think we both have the same opinion as if this deserved sequels, and I'll go first. I think I would watch another one of these for sure. Why not? There's enough there, and especially with Jack Black and Cate Blanchett still being part of the cast going forward, I would have to presume. I think there's enough there to see the further adventures of this world and maybe broaden it a little bit.
It's interesting because this is what we would like kind of call, like we've done some before, like soft launch franchise attempts, because nothing really in like the research I was doing showed that they ever like went out there saying that this was meant to start like a huge franchise, but knowing that it's a series of books. And in the last few minutes of the movie, well, not even in the last few minutes, like she's throughout the movie, but they specifically kind of introduce a character in the last couple minutes that I know is becomes a more like bigger character in the later books.
Yeah,
from the research, she's like his new friend. So she is introduced at the end, which seems to be a sequel tease. I definitely would have watched more as well. Maybe I would have just watched them and forgot them, but I still think there's no reason for them not to happen. This one actually is a little bit of a head scratcher for me, like in that it was a hit. And particularly now, thinking about like, it's not like Cate Blanchett and Jack Black. It's not like their stardom is diminished. If anything, Jack Black's stardom is even bigger.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I guess this just exists in that weird nebulous territory where it was like a hit, but just a small enough hit and didn't cross that just next level to even hang on enough to where today they could be like, hey, we're making House 2 finally, and people would be excited. It's just a little too forgotten. And it's like, is it just like the 2018 of it all, right before everything collapsed?
Sure.
I don't know. It's just, it seems to me like when you have Jack Black in the lead and now seeing what, the Mario Brothers and Minecraft of it all, are they leaving money on the table by not doing another one, or would they just have another like minor hit? It's hard to say, but
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, head scratcher. That's the way to say it. I thought maybe it was like the COVID era of it all, but no, like this came out in 2018. It still had a good year and a half before any of that happened. 2019 did have like big hits though, like there was the end of Star Wars, the end of Game of Thrones, the end of the MCU at the time. So maybe just kind of overshadowed with other IP. Like I really don't know. I'm not sure.
I think honestly even the bigger head scratcher for me. Well, it was a head scratcher until I looked at like the filmography order and was like, oh no, okay, I think I see what happened. It's like I remember like why didn't this like actually result in a new direction for Eli Roth, right? So when you direct an Amblin, Spielberg produced movie with big stars that is a hit, you'd think he would have like done more like this afterwards. And granted, he still could. I guess he's still young, and there's still plenty. And it's only a few years ago, but it is. I think what actually happened is because this is a hit. I think that's probably what got him the Borderlands job.
Oh yes.
And we all know that was a shit show, and we'll talk about it someday. But clearly, something went very, very bad in the making of Borderlands, and he ended up like walking away from that movie.
Yeah.
And did not even finish directing it. And that's when he like kind of ran back to do Thanksgiving, which was like, he hadn't done a horror movie since like Green Inferno. So
Yeah.
that was kind of him going back to the horror genre, and I think like retreating. I know it was hailed as like this big like triumphant comeback. To me, even though I like Thanksgiving a lot, felt kind of more like retreating back to horror for him.
Sure.
So I think the Borderlands experience maybe kind of like soured him on big budget kind of IP filmmaking, and maybe even soured studios on using him in that regard. So
because too, I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get to that movie at some point, but like he started making that movie in like 21, didn't he? Like it was in Borderlands was in production for like
very
4
complicated
years.
Production, yeah.
So because his Thanksgiving, like you're saying, retreating to Thanksgiving came out before Borderlands. So yeah, not good. But we'll talk about that's a story for another day. As
we might even have to cover Thanksgiving someday, because pretty sure the date they said they're going to start making the second one came and went with nothing happening. So
what does he have coming up?
He's working on a movie called Ice Cream Man, which is like his own original idea and not a remake of the great Clint Howard Ice Cream Man, unfortunately. But yeah, he's been talking more about that than he has Thanksgiving 2, even though, like I said, they were like very gung-ho about Thanksgiving 2, and he had said like, oh, we're starting production in like March of 2025, and I don't think that happened. So because it was supposed to come out this November, and I'm pretty sure that is not the case anymore. So.
And I know Peacock picked up a series order for Hostel.
Yeah, there's gonna be a Hostel show also, and Paul Giamatti is gonna be in it, and I believe he is directing some of it at least.
Oh wow,
so,
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as always, like I'll
You think Spielberg still calls him? You think they still talk?
You know what? Honestly, maybe.
I do wonder about that, right? Like, does the relationship does it stay after the movie, or is it like, you made this movie for me, great, see you later? You know?
I think Spielberg, he respects you as, I mean, this is gonna sound weird, but maybe I'm wrong, but he respects you as like a company man a little bit, and I think Eli Roth goes out and sells the project, and he delivered something.
And
he delivered something fairly good.
He has a name. Like I said, he does have name value too. He's like one of the few directors that, I mean, we talked about this actually when Borderlands was coming out. Remember, you and I had like little debates about it, where I was like, why aren't they putting Eli Roth's name on the poster? Because it's like, he's one of the few directors I think you can use to like market something, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Borderlands, from the filmmaker that Steven Spielberg hired that one time.
Here's my guess. The last time Steven Spielberg talked to Eli Roth, this is what I think. This is what I think the relationship will be like moving forward. Is I bet you Eli Roth got like a card from him after Thanksgiving came out that said, "I saw Thanksgiving, I thought it was great." Like it'll be like that, right? Like
totally.
Like gonna be like, "Yeah, I really liked your new movie,"
Yeah, something positive rather than like wiping his tears from Borderlands. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay, well. That's the house with a clock in its walls.
Maybe that's part of the problem too. Not exactly a name that rolls off the tongue.
No, it's a bad title. Bad title, especially for children to say. I can barely say it. Okay, so we are gonna be wrapping up Summer Surprise. It has flown by the way. Not just our movies, but just summer in general is at an end.
You're telling me, buddy, when as a teacher, I feel that semester breathing down my neck here. So yeah.
Totally. But next episode, we are capping off Summer Surprise 2025 with The Garbage Pail Kids movie from 1987.
I know you're very excited. This is what you've been looking forward to the whole time.
Yes, the whole time since we've started this podcast. I think it's this one was snuck on a couple years ago. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. That's for sure. That's all you can say.
We will witness. We will see. Anyways, follow along at F2F Pod. That's at F2, the number 2F Pod on all the socials. Like us there, like us everywhere. Rate, review, whatever you do, and join the tribe and hit that subscribe. And let's go into the dumpsters, I guess.
Sure. Hey, do you think, Cabin Fever, Hostel Part 2, Thanksgiving, Green Inferno, do you think the Jack Black baby is the most horrifying thing Eli Roth has ever put on screen?
It's up there.
It is, right?
It's up there. Like, it's not.
I can't think of anything in Cabin Fever or Hostel that is like more disturbing than Jack Black baby.
And we saw that girl shave her skin off.
And like the cutting the guy's eye off with scissors, and like Hostel, and like
Hostel with playing soccer with the guy's head at the end, and like you said, I have not seen Green Inferno, but I did not know of this diarrhea scene you're speaking of.
Oh, okay. Well, I always recommend movies to you every Halloween. Maybe I should just do this one.
I could finally. It's the last time we ever speak.